These past few days, a rumor has been spreading wildly on mainland China's self-media platforms. Trump has died. As everyone knows, China's real-name internet system is strictly enforced, and it's not easy to post online after bypassing the firewall. Yet these posts spreading the rumor about Trump's death keep popping up one after another, and they haven't been deleted. What does this indicate? This isn't just the personal actions of a few internet users. It's something the Chinese Communist Party is allowing or even happy to see. Getting ordinary people to believe that Trump is dead serves the CCP's political needs. Why is that? Just look at its current situation. Externally, its ally Iran is suffering defeat after defeat. Khamenei has already been killed by the US-Israeli coalition, and Iran's top leaders have been successively eliminated. The chess piece that the CCP painstakingly cultivated in the Middle East has now reached its endgame. Internally, the pressure from tariffs in the trade war continues to intensify. News of factory shutdowns and worker layoffs is spreading every day. Under attack from all sides, Xi Jinping needs a false rumor like Trump is dead, now more than ever, to boost morale. However, spreading rumors cannot cover up the facts and will come at a cost. Today, let's take a closer look at exactly where this grand game between China and the US stands. Hello everyone, I'm Fang Wei. Here, you'll find a different perspective on China-US current affairs analysis. Please click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Let's start with a specific incident. Not long ago, Iran shot down a US F-15E fighter jet, and the two pilots ejected to escape. Trump immediately mobilized hundreds of special forces and more than 155 aircraft of various types, sparing no effort to rescue the two pilots. The words of the US military are truly moving. Never leave a comrade behind. Trump was also very pleased. But the United States was also concerned about another question. How was this F-15E shot down? The US Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, has confirmed that a Chinese Communist Party company called Misheng Technology published AI-enhanced satellite images of US military bases in the Middle East with tagged data on open-source platforms before and during the US military operation, providing Iran's missiles and drones with precise targeting intelligence. I want to make this company clear here so that everyone has a concrete idea. Misheng Technology is located in Hangzhou, Zhejiang. Its founder, Liu Ming, previously served as the head of the National-Level Algorithm Laboratory for Wireless Research Systems at Huawei in the United States. The shareholders of this company include the Chinese Ministry of Finance, the Social Security Fund, China Construction Bank, Taiping Insurance, and the State-Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission. This is not an ordinary tech company, it is a state-backed enterprise. According to US government sources, this company is maliciously exploiting open-source platforms to provide intelligence that informs missile and drone targeting protocols. Another source added that Misheng Technology has been using AI software to identify specific military targets, including particular aircraft models, the locations of naval vessels, air defense systems, and radar deployments. In other words, the reason Iran's missiles are able to locate US military targets is because they are backed by satellite intelligence from the Chinese Communist Party. This is not an independent action by Iran. It is the CCP waging war against the United States through Iran as a proxy. Moreover, the US has already obtained concrete evidence, and China's military support for Iran is just one aspect of this. Before I tell you about another aspect, according to the latest report from the Wall Street Journal, despite the United States having imposed strict sanctions on Iran for a long time, Iran is still able to export oil worth billions of dollars every month. There's only one reason for this. The Chinese Communist Party is making massive purchases. Now, almost all of the oil produced by Iran is sold to China. Everyone. Do you know what this proportion was 10 years ago? About 30%. In 10 years, the share has gone from 30% to almost 100%. The Chinese Communist Party has become Iran's only outlet for oil. According to estimates by the commodity research firm Kepler, which tracks tanker movements, in 2025, the CCP will still be importing about 1.4 million barrels of crude oil from Iran every day, accounting for more than 80% of Iran's total exports. More importantly, in order to help Iran circumvent sanctions, China and Iran have established an entire sophisticated money laundering system. They use small-scale Chinese banks with limited international operations to transfer funds, set up shell companies in Hong Kong to manage cash flow, rely on so-called teapot private Chinese refineries to take in Iranian crude oil, and forge invoices and disguise the origin of the oil. There's also a shadow fleet. These vessels conceal the true origin of Iranian crude oil by turning off their tracking systems, frequently changing names and conducting ship-to-ship transfers at sea. The American nonprofit organization CCADS has tracked and found that this shipping network, centered around the Chinese Communist Party, has already transported over 400 million barrels of sanctioned oil. 400 million barrels. There is even a barter system, where Chinese companies build infrastructure for Iran in exchange for oil supplies. According to reports, in 2024 alone, the value of transactions completed through this method reached as much as $8.4 billion, and that's not even counting Russia. According to a Financial Times report from March this year, based on the latest assessments from Western intelligence agencies, Russia is secretly preparing to send drones, medicines, and food to Iran. This is the first time there is evidence showing that Moscow is willing to provide lethal weapons support to Tehran. In other words, behind Iran stands the iron triangle of China, Russia, and Iran. Researchers at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies in Washington put it bluntly: China is Iran's main partner in evading sanctions. Without China's long-term financial support, Iran would have collapsed long ago. This is not ordinary business. This is helping a regime at war with the United States to stay alive. Having seen this, I want to ask everyone, what do you think is the most likely action the United States will take next, given that the Chinese Communist Party is providing Iran with oil funds and military intelligence? A. Expand sanctions on relevant Chinese companies and individuals. B. Issue a stern diplomatic warning to the Chinese Communist Party, demanding that it cut ties with Iran. C. Not ruling out taking more direct military or diplomatic retaliatory actions. D. Temporarily taking no action and waiting for a more favorable opportunity. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Now, I want to tell you an even more interesting story, a story that leaves the Chinese Communist Party speechless. Does everyone know how many surveillance cameras Xi Jinping has installed in mainland China? 700 million. On average, for every 7 Chinese people, there are 3 cameras pointed at them. Xi Jinping relies on this system to monitor the entire society, believing it to be his most secure tool of control. However, this very tool is now turning against him. According to multiple sources, before launching a fatal strike against Iran's supreme leader Khamenei, Israeli intelligence successfully hacked into Iran's road surveillance camera system. They tracked Khamenei's daily travel routes, activity times, and the composition of his entourage over a long period. Combined with the CIA's precise location technology, this led to that shockingly accurate decapitation operation. So, where is the problem? Where do the surveillance systems used by Iran and Venezuela come from? Hikvision. Hangzhou Hikvision Digital Technology, Comat Ltd, holds about 25.7% of the global surveillance market share, far surpassing the second-place Swedish company Axis, which has 12.9%. It is truly a global surveillance giant. It was the back end of this company's surveillance system that was breached by foreign intelligence agencies, becoming a fatal vulnerability that exposed the movements of Iran's leadership. After the incident, according to Sheng Shui, a pro-democracy activist living in Canada, she received information from insiders in China that more than 300 people from Hikvision, including company executives and core members of the R&D department, had already been taken away by the Chinese authorities for investigation. The entire Xi'an R&D department was emptied overnight. Over 1,000 engineers left just like that, not a single one remained. Large-scale investigations for so-called internal spies are also underway at the R&D centers in Shanghai and Zhejiang. Moreover, governments in multiple countries around the world have already begun to remove and replace Hikvision surveillance equipment. Now, surveillance cameras on streets and roadsides all across China are facing the issue of being replaced. Here I want to talk about a deeper underlying logic. Xi Jinping is now in a state of unprecedented panic. His most trusted associates, Qin Gang, Li Shangfu, and Liu Zhenli, have all been accused one after another of being American spies. Now, even the technical backbone of Hikvision has become a target of investigation. The problem with this regime is not how many external enemies it has, but that its distrust of its own people has reached a pathological level. A ruler who suspects his own people every day may find that every system he builds could ultimately become a weapon that harms himself. Li Zhongxian, a scholar from National Cheng Kung University in Taiwan, said something that left a deep impression on me. Technology is not one way, and control is never absolute. Any tool you use to monitor others can also be used to monitor you. Xi Jinping uses 700 million surveillance cameras to monitor the Chinese people, but in the end, this system was turned against him by his opponents and became a tool that brought down his own allies. This is using your own spear to attack your own shield. Retribution came too quickly. Let's talk about the CCP's covert support for Iran. I also want to review with everyone another episode in history where the CCP used other countries to confront the United States. In 1999, the CCP was also secretly helping Yugoslavia resist the United States. The Jiang Zemin regime secretly supplied surface-to-air missiles, allowed the Yugoslav intelligence agency to move into the basement of the Chinese embassy to develop radar technology, and helped Yugoslavia shoot down the then most advanced F-117 stealth fighter jet. Chinese experts even brought the wreckage of the plane into the embassy for research and analysis. The United States issued multiple diplomatic warnings, but Jiang Zemin ignored them. As for the final outcome, everyone knows. A US B-2 bomber dropped 5 precision-guided bombs and bombed the Chinese embassy in Yugoslavia. The Chinese authorities claim that 3 journalists were killed, but according to Hong Kong media reports, at least 14 engineers in the basement were also killed in the bombing. However, the CCP has never mentioned the deaths of these people. Now, 27 years have passed and the same script is playing out again. The Chinese Communist Party is supporting Iran's mullah regime by providing satellite intelligence, oil funds, and surveillance technology. As a result, another US military aircraft has been shot down. 27 years ago, the CCP helped Yugoslavia shoot down an F-117 and the US bombed the embassy. 27 years later, the CCP helped Iran shoot down an F-15E, and once again, the US has leverage in its hands. The logic of rogue regimes never changes. Evil is ingrained in their very bones. What's different is that today, the United States holds more cards and has greater room to maneuver. Last month, Secretary of Defense Hicks explicitly stated that the United States is well aware that the CCP and Russia are supporting Iran and said that when necessary, we will take measures to respond directly. This statement is very clear. The only question is timing and method. Do you think the United States will ultimately take direct action against the CCP's behind-the-scenes support? A, yes, but it will be in a more covert way, such as financial sanctions or technological blockades. B, not for now. The US will keep this card in reserve to use as leverage in negotiations. C, no, the scale of both China and the US is too large, and neither side will go that far. What do you think? Leave me a comment and let me know. Finally, I want to talk a bit about the CCP's real situation from my perspective. Right now, the United States holds 3 trump cards. The first is the intelligence evidence from Mishang Technology. CCP enterprises have directly provided targeting intelligence for Iran's missiles and drones. This is black and white, documented and traceable military support. The second trump card is the complete financial chain through which the CCP helps Iran evade sanctions. From the Shadow Fleet to teapot refineries, from Kunlun Bank to shell companies in Hong Kong, the US has a clear view of every link in this lifeline. The third trump card is the security vulnerabilities exposed by Hikvision. The surveillance systems exported by the CCP have already been exploited in reverse by their adversaries, and their own technical backbone is now being thoroughly investigated and purged. With these 3 trump cards on the table, when and how the US chooses to play them is entirely up to its own initiative. The CCP is now in a situation where its weaknesses are being held against it, yet it still has to put on a brave face and pretend nothing is wrong. Internally, Xi Jinping is facing a system that is starting to loosen from within, and those he trusts the most are one by one becoming suspects. The tech companies he relies on the most have become vulnerabilities that expose their allies. The surveillance empire he poured massive resources into building could have its guns turned around on him at any moment. History tells us that the ultimate collapse of totalitarian regimes is often not caused by external forces, but by the contradictions they themselves create, which tear them apart from within. Mainland Chinese social media can spread rumors that Trump is dead, but it can't change a basic fact. Trump is alive and well, Iran's ally Khamenei is dead, and the CCP's cards have been revealed. History never owes anyone, it's just a matter of time. I'm Fang Wei. If you find my analysis helpful, please like and share. See you next time.